Have you ever noticed that the nicest person in the room somehow ends up dating the most controlling one? You know the pattern. You're patient, you're understanding, you try to see the good in people. You don't like conflict. You'd rather smooth things over than make a scene. And somehow, you keep attracting people who want to tell you what to wear, who to talk to, how to think, when to reply, why you're wrong. It starts small. I just care about you. Then it becomes, I don't like your friends. Then it slowly turns into, why do you need anyone else? And you sit there thinking, I'm just being kind. Why does this keep happening? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Kindness isn't the problem, but unguarded kindness. That can look like an open door to someone who's constantly scanning for control. Today we're going to unpack the hidden psychology behind why kind people often attract controlling personalities, and more importantly, how to spot the pattern before it wraps itself around you again. Because maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you love, or maybe it's that one relationship you still replay in your head sometimes. Let's start with the first pattern, the harmonizer. Picture someone who hates tension the way some people hate spiders. The moment there's conflict, their nervous system lights up like a fire alarm. So they do what they've always done, smooth it over, apologize first, soften their tone, say, it's okay, even when it's not. The harmonizer is deeply empathetic. They feel other people's discomfort almost physically. When someone is upset, they rush to fix it. When someone withdraws, they panic internally and move closer. To a healthy partner, this feels warm and safe. To a controlling personality, it feels like leverage. Because here's what control feeds on: reaction. Controlling individuals are often uncomfortable with uncertainty. They want reassurance, dominance, or constant validation. When they test boundaries, maybe by being jealous, maybe by criticizing, maybe by withdrawing affection, they're watching what happens next. And the harmonizer responds immediately. They soothe, they accommodate, they prove loyalty, which quietly reinforces the controlling behavior. It's not malicious on the harmonizer's part. It's survival wiring. Many grew up in environments where love was conditional on peacekeeping, so they learned, keep everyone calm and you'll stay safe. But in adulthood, that skill can accidentally reward someone who thrives on power imbalance. If this feels familiar, pause for a second. Do you rush to resolve tension even when you're not wrong? Do you feel guilty when someone is upset with you, even if their reaction is disproportionate? That's not weakness. That's empathy without boundaries. And controlling personalities can sense it almost instantly. Then there's the second profile, the rescuer. This person sees potential everywhere. They meet someone intense, moody, a little possessive, and instead of seeing red flags, they see wounds. They've just been hurt before. No one's really understood them. They just need someone patient. The rescuer doesn't fall in love with who someone is. They fall in love with who someone could be. Now here's where psychology gets interesting. Controlling personalities often project strength at first, confidence, certainty, a kind of magnetic intensity. But underneath that can be insecurity, fear of abandonment, fear of irrelevance, fear of losing control. The rescuer senses that vulnerability beneath the surface, and instead of stepping back, they step closer. They become the stabilizer, the emotional anchor, the translator of moods, the one who says, I know you didn't mean it like that. But here's the twist. When you position yourself as someone's emotional caretaker, you quietly accept unequal power dynamics. You start adjusting yourself more and more to maintain stability. The controlling partner learns something powerful. If I push, they pull me back. If I withdraw, they chase. If I criticize, they improve. It creates a loop. The rescuer thinks they're loving harder. The controlling personality feels increasingly entitled. And over time, love starts feeling like management. Ask yourself, do you feel drawn to people who seem complicated? Do you believe patience can fix someone's insecurity? Sometimes it can, but not when control is the coping strategy they refuse to give up. Now let's talk about another subtle type, the low-visibility kind person. This is the person who doesn't demand much. They don't need constant praise. They don't compete for attention. They're content in the background.
Independent, low drama, easygoing. They think this makes them low maintenance, and it does, but it also makes them easy to slowly dominate if they don't assert themselves. Controlling personalities often prefer partners who won't publicly challenge them, someone adaptable, someone flexible, someone who doesn't overreact. At first, it feels harmonious, no explosive fights, no chaos, but slowly decisions start shifting. The restaurant choice, the vacation plan, the social circle, the narrative. And because the low-visibility kind person doesn't push back immediately, the controlling partner assumes silent agreement. Silence gets mistaken for consent. Here's the psychological mechanism. Control expands into space that isn't defended, not because you're weak, but because you didn't signal a boundary early enough. Kindness without clarity can blur lines, and blurred lines are where controlling behavior grows roots. Then there's another dynamic people rarely talk about, the hyper-understanding one. This person understands everything. They can explain why someone acted badly, they can contextualize mood swings, they can empathize with jealousy. They'll say things like, "I get why you reacted that way," even when that reaction hurt them. And understanding is beautiful, it's mature, it's emotionally intelligent. But when you constantly rationalize someone's controlling behavior, you remove its consequences. And controlling personalities often test limits gradually. They don't announce it, they inch. They ask you to text when you arrive home. Then they ask for your location. Then they ask why you need privacy at all. Each step is small enough to explain away, and the hyper-understanding one does exactly that. They just worry. They've been betrayed before. They love deeply. But love doesn't require surveillance. Understanding someone's insecurity doesn't mean surrendering your autonomy. Here's the deeper psychology. Kind people often derive identity from being the stable one, the mature one, the reasonable one. So when conflict arises, they instinctively choose the higher ground. Controlling personalities, however, often derive identity from dominance or certainty. So when they feel anxious, they tighten control. These two identities can lock together like puzzle pieces. One calms, one commands, one adjusts, one asserts. It feels balanced at first, complementary, until it isn't. Now here's something uncomfortable. Kindness is attractive, but it's also predictable. Controlling personalities crave predictability. They want to know how you'll respond. If they criticize you, will you leave? Or will you try harder? If they withdraw affection, will you lean in or will you lean out? When someone realizes you lean in every time, they unconsciously or consciously increase pressure. Not because they woke up plotting control. Often it's fear-based. Fear of losing relevance, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. But fear-driven control still suffocates. And kind people often tolerate suffocation longer than others because they don't want to give up on someone. Let's pause here. If you're listening and thinking, "This sounds like me," don't turn this into self-blame. You didn't attract control because you're flawed. You attracted it because you're generous. But generosity without boundaries can feel like infinite supply to someone who's always hungry for reassurance or dominance. Here's the twist most people miss. Kind people don't need to become colder, they need to become clearer. Controlling personalities are less attracted to kindness itself and more attracted to kindness that doesn't push back. When a kind person calmly says, "I understand you feel that way, but I'm not changing this," something shifts. When they say, "I care about you, but I won't be monitored," something recalibrates. Healthy individuals respect that clarity. Controlling ones often resist it, and that resistance tells you everything. The goal isn't to stop being empathetic, it's to pair empathy with boundaries so tight they're almost boring, because boring boundaries repel drama, and drama is oxygen to control. So ask yourself, do you apologize to keep peace? Do you explain yourself excessively? Do you feel responsible for someone else's emotional stability? Do you shrink your needs to avoid conflict? Maybe you recognize yourself in one profile, maybe in all of them. The real shift happens when kindness becomes a choice instead of a reflex. When you give, but you also hold. When you understand, but you also assert. when you stay warm but not porous. And here's something empowering. Kind people, once they develop firm boundaries, controlling personalities often lose interest quickly because control requires flexibility on the other side. If there's no room to dominate, there's no dynamic to feed on. Which type felt closest to you? The harmonizer, the rescuer, the low visibility one, the hyper-understanding one, or maybe a mix? Sit with that, because awareness is where patterns begin to break. And the next time someone tests your limits under the disguise of care, you recognize it. Not dramatically, not angrily, just clearly. And clarity, quiet, steady clarity, is something controlling personalities struggle to overpower. If this resonated, reflect on one boundary you've been avoiding. Just one. Start there. And tell me in the comments, which pattern did you see yourself in? Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is protect your own space.